everyone, and welcome to the Around the Ballpark podcast, one of my favorite highlights of the week. Thank you for joining us. I am here alongside my co-host, Darren Redmond. Welcome to the show. Today, we're very excited to have on Tim Ryder with the Simply Amazing, with no G, Amazing apostrophe, podcast. And we are here to talk about my favorite team, your favorite team, Darren's favorite team, the New York Mets. We're going to have a lot of fun here tonight. But before we do that and introduce Tim, Darren, you have a few words for our listeners?
Yes, and I just want to say that, being old Met fans here, and Mike, especially you and I, we have a high bar. And let me tell you something, Tim, he knows this because I comment on your stuff every day just about, and I love it. And we're distant friends now, and Mets high bar, what a great guest. It's going to be outstanding. Speaking of outstanding, you like that? Segue. All right. Attention, Palm Bay and everybody else. You got tax troubles? Nashville Tax Solutions has got you covered. Whether you're behind on returns, you're facing a lien, or just need some expert advice because, I didn't know I could 1099 this. I did not know I had to declare this. Those kind of things. That's part of being a human, right? That team at Nashville Tax Solutions is there to help. Clients say things like Chris Bennett, who owns Nashville Tax Solutions, and his team save me from a financial nightmare. They're knowledgeable, they're clear, and compassionate. So don't let taxes stress you out. Reach out to Nashville Tax Solutions today. Call 615-502-2250 or visit NashvilleTaxSolutions.com. Or just if you want to email, you don't want to talk to anybody, just email info@NashvilleTaxSolutions.com. Nashville Tax Solutions, where tax resolution is achieved.
Yes, definitely. And once again, thank you, Chris Bennett. Has been on our show before, big Yankee fan, former bat boy. He shared with us before. He's a former bat boy for the Dodgers when they were in Vero Beach for some spring training. Shared some good stories. Check that episode out. But we're not here to talk about that right now. We are here to talk the New York Mets. Tim, thank you so much for being with us. You can kind of just introduce yourself for the listeners, just let them know, who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Sure. Tim Ryder. I got a blog. It's called The Apple. It's Substack, so you can just search for that. I have the podcast, Simply Amazing. Very Met-centric on both ends. I've been doing this since 2016, 2017, as far as, I started out blogging. Started with the Islanders, moved over to the Padres, and finally got an opportunity to write about the Mets. And that, of course, led to the podcast. And now I got my own little, carved out my own little niche. And I'm really enjoying myself. I'm enjoying what this team is doing. And this is kind of a lark, kind of a hobby for me. So, I'm all about just kind of enjoying this. And right now, with the way this team is playing, it's very easy to enjoy. So it's been a trip as far as my journey, and hopefully the journey of the 2024 season takes us to some more enjoyable times.
Yeah, and I'm not even, we lost 2 straight, of course, going into tonight, but there was just something different about that loss. Like, they still scored some runs. Yes, the bullpen. If there's one thing right now that's kind of, it's that 8th inning kind of been our, worry lately. But when they play as good as they've been playing, you kind of go, okay, they're still in good shape here. Everyone in the National League outside of the Marlins and the Rockies are still in it right now. So it's not reason for panic right now. But I got to ask, though, right now, who's more beloved in, Metland? Is it Bartolo Colon or Grimace? I feel like they're the 2 top dogs, right? For what are your thoughts on Grimace, the whole situation?
Colon is just a legend. He's got a lore to him. Grimace is I don't want to say he's a flash in the pan. He's just a fad. I think he's gripped this fan base quite tightly. Unless things really crash and burn at that point, then he'll just turn into a pariah of sorts. But we know how that goes. I wish the best for Grimace. I hope that's not his fate. But hey, any magic that we can take right now, we're going to take it. In 69, it was a black cat.
That's
in
right.
86, it was probably way too much drugs and alcohol. Wherever the magic comes from right now, if it's Grimace, we'll take it.
100%.
Yes, we will. And I have to ask as a there's so many ways we can go, but starting here, one of the things we love to talk about on the podcast is the actual ballparks themselves. And so, Shea Stadium, near and dear to me. We always joke about RC Cola on the show, and I actually had some today. It feels like it went away for a while and it's back again. And
Wait,
Darren,
RC
we
Cola
make,
is back. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. RC Cola is back.
At least here by us, we live and breathe by Dollar General down here in Florida, where I'm at.
Well,
And,
that's it, guys.
yeah.
I'm signing off. I'm going to Dollar General. I'll see you.
Yes.
Thanks for letting me in.
Yeah, we have the RC Cola and then the cherry RC Cola, which you can believe is actually better than the original. But we've always made the joke like it kind of, we remember it like it would disintegrate back in the day. So I actually had some yesterday. Yeah, the cups. But I had some RC Cola yesterday, forgot about it, and went to kind of pour it out this morning, and it was crystal clear. Like there was no RC residue. It was like, I don't know what just happened. But I know I didn't finish it all. So, but starting with that, so Shea Stadium, near and dear to my heart. Got to go to Citi Field a few times as well. Love that. It's kind of you have the part of the stadium where you can go and see some things that made Shea what it was. But just your early initial thoughts on Citi Field, and then what you can recollect about any memories you might have had at Shea Stadium.
Oh well, I mean, Citi Field's beautiful park. Let me start there. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I mean, I haven't been to nearly all 30 parks, but it's top 5 from the ones I've been to, and that's not biased. It's just a beautiful park. Citizens Bank Park is also up there in Philly. Beautiful, just gorgeous. Pittsburgh also. Anyway, but I'm a Shea kid. I'm 40 years old. Most of my fandom was spent at Shea Stadium, whether it was up in the Reds, whether it was my dad's company seats that he would get, passed off once in a while down in the Oranges, or I guess probably the last 10 years we had season tickets in the Green. There wasn't a whole bunch of success. So like I said, I'm 40. I was born in 83. 86 I was 3 years old that October. So I don't remember any of it. It's been a lot of losing, and I think that built a lot of character. And I associate all those character building times with time spent at Shea Stadium. I mean, the walks up and down those ramps. After a win, the walks down those ramps was magic.
Oh, yes.
Walking around the ballpark before the game, it wasn't like it was just literally a circle around the ballpark, and you could only do like 3/4 of it, but still, it was a different vibe. You could feel that magic that you heard about from the good times, and it was some of the best times in my life were in that stadium. The good times, I don't know if you ever felt Shea Stadium shake.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all felt at one time or another, and it really did. The first time I felt it, I thought that the stadium was coming down, and my dad's like, no, that'll happen sometimes, and it was reassuring, but it still freaked me out. Like, oh my God, this concrete building is shaking. But I guess that's the power of fandom, and we got to experience it. Citi Field does a little shaking itself, but it's not Shea, and that was it's not that. I guess that was my point, was that Citi Field could be as beautiful ballpark as there is. It's not Shea. It might have been a dump, but it was our dump, and I loved it. I loved it. I dream about it. I dream about walking. Everyone remembers walking through the tunnels out onto the field. I remember the walk into the tunnels and all the people and the smells and I miss that place with all of my heart.
Oh, so do I.
Get me to wax poetic right now, but
please do.
Yeah. And I even remember every detail, even from all the planes flying through, I can remember everything. It was,
Tim, coming out, what you talking about? I'm sorry, Mike. Coming into that tunnel from the end of the game, and everybody just, all the different smells, and you come out, and there's a stolen shopping cart with a guy with some briskets.
The pretzels.
Yes.
The pretzels. The best pretzels in the world, right?
Absolutely. Little wet, little cold. Hot.
I don't care if the inside is still frozen. Those things are awesome.
The best.
You guys get it, man. I love this.
Yes. Yeah, because I'm around the same age as you, Tim, and so I'm almost grateful. Like if that switch would have happened now, I would have lost my absolute mind. Like I was young enough where like I didn't quite understand that. Okay, oh, we'll see what the new stadium's like, but I miss it with all my heart as well. But at least so many memories that we're probably gonna dive into here. It's so hard to pick a place to start. But so you had mentioned so your podcast had pretty much started around the 2016, 2017 time. So if you want to tell us a little bit about that in terms of like what came to that decision and
Sure. Yeah. So I started, I mean, if we really want to get into it, I was at a pretty low point in my life, and I don't know if it was just a stroke of whatever, but I saw an ad on Twitter or something for, oh, you want to write for a website. And I always wrote for myself. That was always a little outlet for me. I had a journal ever since I was a kid. I always wrote. I knew I had some chops to it. I knew I could write a little bit, but nobody ever like read it. Never wrote letters. But we kind of missed that generation. By the time we were like 12, 13, we had email. We never really wrote letters. It was, it was just like I said earlier, just a hobby, but it was a very personal one. So I saw the ad. I gave them a little sample article, and they're like, "Wow, you're really good. You're in." So I was writing about the Islanders, who, funny enough, I was raised a Ranger fan. I became an Islander fan later in life. We'll get into that another time, but I was writing for like the fan-sided network, so it's like just a website. It was like a network of websites all focused on teams, written by bloggers. I was doing well with the hockey one. They're like, "Hey, do you want to pick up a baseball one? The Mets one is spoken for." They knew I was a Mets fan, but you could pick either the Padres or the Oakland Athletics. And I knew, I guess at the time, which was like 2017, the Padres were on the upswing. I knew a young kid named Fernando Tatis was making his way through the minors. I knew there were some dark times ahead, but the GM over there, whose name just escapes me, he was doing some exciting things. And it was, I said, let's go to the Padres. Plus, I grew up a huge Tony Gwynn fan. Like I would, of course, we would have to wait for the late papers to get the West Coast scores and box scores, but Dad would bring those home from work just for me so I could check on Tony Gwynn.
Awesome.
So I was writing about the Padres. Luckily, Mets Merized, who's a very, I guess a prominent Mets outlet still today. I guess I caught their eye. They asked if I wanted to write about the Mets, and my heart jumped. It was. And from there, I probably put together about 1,200 articles in 4 years. Took a little break. Burnout's real.
Oh, yes, it is.
Over that time during the articles, I started the podcast. And actually, Andrew Claudio, I don't know if you guys are Knicks fans, but the Knicks Film School, Andrew is the executive producer there. Core group member over at Knicks Film School. He still has a podcast, Mets Therapy, but he originally brought me on as his co-host for a podcast called Willits Point. Something at Willits Point. My goodness, is that long ago? I kind of forget the name, but he moved on to the Knicks stuff. It took too much of his time. He's like, please take the show. And I took the show, and that really rolled. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Jacob Resnick. He's now in the Mets minor league operations department. Baseball operations department, player development, stuff like that. He was also a writer at Mets Merized with me. We probably did 200 episodes. I would say 120 episodes together, because I think we're only at around 230 now. But so it was probably 100 plus. And my buddy Taran Sharma, who's previously in the Diamondbacks and Giants front offices after graduating from Duke. He's now finished his law degree. He's a lawyer. He's kind of out of the baseball world, working in like NILs and stuff. He was my co-host for a while. He's just moved on because he's very, life takes over. I've actually been short to post, but yeah, my little journey has taken me through quite a bit of things. I left Mets Merized in 2020-ish. I got credentials a few times. which was, outstanding, just a dream come true. And I couldn't be more grateful to Mesmerize for what they gave me, the opportunities, the knowledge, the guidance, the, foot in the door, as you might say. Moved on to the Apple, and it's been more of a trudge. Doing it by yourself is quite a challenge. Life trying to mix into that, because during the pandemic it was easy, but since it's been a bit of a hustle, but
Sure.
we do what we have to, and again, as I started before, it's a hobby, it's a lark. I do it to make myself happy. If it makes other people happy, that's awesome, man. It still blows my mind that if I write something, other people read it. It's still like it.
And listen, and I'm not just saying this because I believe we now have a friendship. You're good at it.
Thank you, man.
You're really good. You're really good at it. You're concise, and you know how many I struggle with my writing. I mean, on and on and on. And it's just enough with the preamble, Redmond. Get to it. But you're not brief. If you understand what I'm saying, you hear the facts and a little bit of editorial. Let's go. And I love that.
Yeah, no, I enjoy it. It's brought me more joy than I could ever imagine it would. And I've made small leaps and bounds. I don't want to say professionally, because again, I don't view it like that professionally. And maybe that might have been a bit of my downfall, because I didn't take it that seriously, or at times maybe I took it too seriously, because you almost get a little buzz or a little high off of the success. It's like, oh man, this is cool. Finding that middle ground between too high and too low, and just finding that happy medium of, hey, let's have a good time. Almost like the Mets are trying to do right now. Forget about everything. Forget about the pressure. Forget about anything else but what's going on in this room. And let's go let's go produce some things. Mm-hmm. That's almost the mindset I try to keep for myself. I try to tell my kids, like, don't lose focus. And it's tough not to lose focus at times, but yeah, I think writing grounds me. I think I thank it every day for actually showing itself in me, to say, hey, this is an outlet for you to really, if you're working through some stuff, put it down in words, and most likely it's going to help. And yeah, it's a very cool little nook or cranny to my life, and yeah, I appreciate that, man. I really do.
Yeah.
Mike, I never asked you, why did you want to do this?
Because I felt like I was at a period of time where it's something I was holding on to near and dear to my heart for years, and I just always kind of put other things before it, and I was like, you know what, this is something for myself, like, call it selfish, not selfish, but felt like it was the right time. There were a lot of things through the years I've had it taken care of and whatnot, but I really felt with, I'm not any more busy. I'm more busy now than I ever been in my entire life. But if not now, then when? And I just said, let's go for it, and we'll make the time. God will make a way. And when it comes easy only because you enjoy it so much. And that's kind of going to go to what my next point is. Maybe, one of the things, unfortunately, the Mets aren't in postseason too often, but one of the things we've talked about, I think, once on this show, Tim, is, we've got it made as Met fans in terms of commentating. We have Gary, we have Keith, and we have Ron, and they're as good as they can be, as is. And I can't imagine this team, as exciting as they are now, making the postseason and not having the three of them there along the way. It's I just really feel something so strong about postseason commentating. I know there's some good ones out there, but just watching any Apple podcast, it's better just to watch it in subtitles. Make your own commentary. It's so bad. It really is so bad. So kind of your thoughts on that, because
the Apple broadcast, I like Wayne Randazzo. If we get Wayne Randazzo, I'm okay with that.
Yes. Yeah.
If some of the other ones are, I wouldn't say a tough listen, but we're spoiled.
Yeah.
All these people are professionals. Like, the thing with Michael Kay saying, oh, he took offense that Gary, Keith, and Ron, that they had an ad on his radio show that they're the best booth in baseball. Like, one, it's their ad, they can say that. But two, it's like they're almost, I don't want to say it's the consensus that they're one of the best booths in, I mean, that they're the best booth in baseball, but it's absolutely consensus that they're one of the best booths in baseball. I would say that
Absolutely.
Don Orsillo and Mark Grant out in San Diego.
Mhm.
Don Orsillo actually used to be with the Red Sox. I read something this weekend. He was back in Boston. Really lovely piece. I wish I could remember who it was from. Anyway, they're terrific. Michael Kay is a fine announcer. He's a fine play-by-play guy. I have no problem with it. I'll even listen to his radio show sometimes. But yeah, we're spoiled by Gary
We
Keith.
are.
It's one thing the Mets have always had. Great announcers. Even going back
Oh
to
yeah.
Ralph Kiner, going back to when it was Tom Seaver, Fran Healy and Howie Rose doing TV was fine. We've always, I mean, you guys want to go to the Lindsey Nelson, Bob Murphy, Ralph Kiner. That's a Hall of Fame trio. I wouldn't say Gary, Keith, and Ron are too far off, man.
Yeah. No, it just makes it must watch from start to finish. Not not just for the on-field product, but you're going to miss something that they're going to say that is just But Darren, what are your thoughts? Right now, the date of this recording is July 1st, and obviously the Mets are showing life since it seems like the beginning of June. They've showed this since that infamous Lopez incident with the glove tossing in the air, and they had the special meeting and whatnot. Everything has turned around. So where are you at right now? I'll start with you, Darren, in terms of just excitement for this team now versus where we were late May.
Well, listen, I came in, full disclosure, because I post every day. I was not thrilled about Mendoza. I hope that he proves me wrong. And so far, he's starting to prove me wrong, which is great because this is what I want to see. Specifically, what I want to see now is I want the Mets to be active with the trading deadline. There's going to be somebody who will be available who can give you 3 innings of relief, middle inning. I don't want to go after shutdown person at the end because you have him. He's your guy. Stay with him. I make fun of the trumpets, but he's your guy. And what we need right now is that bridge. Unfortunately, we can't go 9 anymore, right? But that 7th and 8th inning, we got to bring in people who specifically can do that. I think the real question to you, Mike, to flip flop is, what do you do with Alonso? Do you trade him at the deadline?
I I know it's tempting. I would say a hard no. I feel like I understand obviously what we can get back and everything, but this to me it was a complete 360 in terms of where they were a month and a half ago. This isn't a team that's just kind of winning some 2-1 ball games. They're scoring runs, and we have our our top pitcher is coming back. He's starting with Brooklyn Cyclones, I believe, on Wednesday evening, his first rehab start. So my answer would be no, but I would not debate anyone that I would totally understand the reasoning about behind trading Alonso at the deadline. It's going to be interesting because we know, right, like by the end of July, they're not going to be 13 of 15 teams in a wild card hunt. But right now, they are. So, I think the farthest back is 3.5. So things will heat up. They're going to get a lot of phone calls for sure around that time. But for me, it's a no. What about you, Tim?
Well, I think it's a tough one. I've always kind of stuck by my guns. No matter where they are in the wild card race at the end of this month, I think that some guys are going to get traded. If they're really in the thick of things, they might move a few guys around, but they might, in the end, be what you would call buyers. Because, this was supposed to be a gap year. If they can make a little run and flip over some guys, maybe bring in a good player, whatever. I'm sure they're going to still make some deals, but the overall vibe of the deadline, if they're still in it, will probably be towards buyer. And in that case, I don't imagine Pete going anywhere. If they fall off a cliff over the next 3 weeks, they're going to have some very, very tough decisions to make, not just on Pete, but on a lot of guys. If they're, let's say they lose 6 out of 7 and they're looking, 6, 7 back in the wild card race, they have a lot of expiring contracts. They have a lot of probably moderately sought after guys. I mean, if JD Martinez hits the market, that's a huge win. I want to say he's just a straight 1-year deal. I don't know that for a fact. I'm not positive he has an option or not. But again, Pete's expiring. I believe you have Marte who has an option year. You have a lot of guys who could, well, he might be playing hurt, so let's take him out of the equation. But anyone who's really not in what you would call the core will probably be discussed internally. I'm sure they're having conversations about Pete. It's a tough call with Pete. If someone's willing to overpay for him, I have to seriously consider it, only because, okay, so Pete's big tool is power. Power's his thing, and he's one of the best in the game at it. He's not a high average guy, and again, average it's just one tool out of 5. Probably 5 plus, but the 5 that you look at, the 5 tools. Batting average is just one of those, and he's never going to be a big batting average guy. He's not going to be Aaron Judge hitting 313 with 30 home runs in July. Certainly not. If he could do it 250 with 50 home runs at the end of the year, I think everyone's okay with that, and I think there's a lot of value in that. What someone's going to pay for a few months of Pete, I wouldn't really budge off of just holding on to him. I think he's going to re-sign here anyway. I think they're going to pay a pretty penny, probably more than they should pay for. I'm sorry. Oh, I thought I was.
You're good.
No, I'm not. It's my fault. It's probably, I'm not going to go out and be like, I don't want to say strong-armed into paying Pete this winter, but if you want to keep him here, you're probably going to have to pay him. And right now I don't trade him. Come the winter, though, I'm not crazy about putting giant Scott Boras type money into him. I'm hoping that the Mets get some sort of hometown discount, because again, he's not. I just hope he comes in at market value. It's not money, but if he falls off in 5 years and the Mets are saddled with some big contract, that affects all of us. And I guess we don't want that as much as the Mets don't want that. And it's going to be tricky. Trade deadline, and I didn't mean to drone on there, but trade deadline. I think that Pete stays. No matter what the Mets are doing, I think that Pete stays.
Listen, in my opinion, real quick, and there's a lot to unpack in what you just said. It really just, the light bulb went off listening to you. And again, that's one of the reasons I love reading you and talking to you, because it's thoughtful. The Met ownership, they don't need right now to get that, whoever the person is, for a couple of months. They could buy whoever they need to buy. So maybe you keep Pete around right now, and just you come out and get that 4th starter who you put him in the bullpen, and again, I don't mean Steven Matz, but that kind of guy to be that bridge guy and say, listen,
Hauser's been pretty darn good.
Very good.
Leader, he can go multiple innings if you need him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could be very useful if they stick around through the end of the summer.
I'll tell you, I mean, eventually Beatty's coming back. This Ventos he's a good player, Though, did you hear that Beatty's playing second base now in the minor leagues?
Yeah.
Neil doesn't step up, Beatty might be taking his spot.
Absolutely, and OMG. I mean, he's not going anywhere. I mean,
Iglesias?
He's not going anywhere.
He's been a godsend. Him,
100%.
Torrance giving Alvarez a rest here and there. Everyone's picking up slack, and that's what a team needs.
Yeah, and I feel like one thing that doesn't get said enough, because it's we don't have the pitcher batting anymore, so the catching situation, when we know what Francisco Alvarez is, but when we had Narvaez and Tomas Nido, like you almost just said, okay, we're treading water. You never want to play that way, and so there's something to their record with Alvarez versus without Alvarez. And so to have who they have now, I feel so weird saying this, but the two guys that I want to part with, never thought I would say this, are Marte and McNeil, which it's tough because there's so much of the heart, but the consistency unfortunately is just not there.
Well,
Of the two,
Marte's back's been pretty solid. If he were healthy
yeah,
right
that's
now,
what I was gonna say. Out of the two,
Agreed.
though, Marte, I can still see the most upside because he could still steal some bases and whatnot. And a good question to ask too is if McNeil or if Alonso were to go, which I don't think he is, like first base. I'm not sure where they go with that. The one guy because Vientos, I believe, can play some one too, correct? So I understand the one guy that's a free agent or that's with the struggling team right now that if they went that route, I think would be like a Ryan McMahon from Colorado could play third base, and I have Vientos the one. But I feel like already with Beatty and we know Mauricio next year is who he is. Hopefully that works out well. But I do feel like you said, Darren. I do feel like McNeil is going to have that pressure put on, and maybe it's going to be for the best. Maybe instead of him in the 5-hole, the 3-hole in the recent years, he's going to have to really earn it at this point. And sometimes the best of the best, step up when that happens.
Listen, I mean, yeah, I laid out there, and we all have bad days, right? We all have bad weeks, and I'm not even talking about performance on the field. But and I think Tim and I think we spoke a little bit about this last time. I'm not sure, but when Jeff Kent whined and complained about a legal slide in second base, that for me was the beginning of the end, because that's the same kind of thing that when he slams the bat, he seems very selfish, and I need to bring him back. That ties into Pete Alonso, because if I am going to resign Pete Alonso, I need him to be like Aaron Judge did the other night. Put his arm around Marcus Stroman and say, we don't do this here. We don't show up our teammates here. And I'm a Marcus Stroman guy. I like him. But, what I'm saying is you got to show that on the field leadership, not just for the optics, but listen, you got to play team ball. You got to play team ball. All you got to do is watch that ESPN special on the 86 Mets. They played hurt and they played team ball every game. And if you weren't going to be a team player, get in and play. You can't whine.
No, fiery's one thing, and that's cool.
100%.
But when you're a detriment to either yourself or the team, which I think Jeff McNeil's little outbursts have been detrimental to either himself or the team on multiple occasions. We all remember the raccoon, the dugout fight with Lindor. I mean,
I was thinking about that. And Lindor straightened him out.
I mean, it just, I don't want to put we're not in that room. We don't know any details. We only know what dribbles out. So I don't want to be like, oh, McNeil's a bad guy. We don't know that. But hey,
100%.
Fiery, sure. But if that's the case, then you got to be able to rein that in, at least for the betterment of the team.
Yep.
And, they got him hitting in the 8-9 hole lately. And, he'll show spurts, he'll show life, but it looks like he's opening up early. It looks like he's just, throwing it out there. He's not getting the barrel on the ball, so it's just popping out to left field. I want to say Keith got into it a couple of weeks ago on the broadcast, and I happened to say it on the podcast like the week before, and I'm like, oh my God, vindication, because you hear it from Keith Hernandez, it's like gospel. Right. He looks like he's all tied up. You almost want him to go back to the see the ball, slap the ball, and get on base type guy, but it looks like he's trying to put a little added angle on it, trying to lift it in the air a little bit. He doesn't seem like the guy who needs that, and maybe it's like all the added information might have twisted him up. Like there's got to be a gentle balance between analytics and natural skill set. And Jeff McNeil's natural skill set doesn't call for him putting the ball in the air. He can do it, but it ties him up, man.
I agree.
It does, and it has something to do with where he's playing too. If he's having the year he's having in Kansas City, it's not going to be as but it's happening in New York, so of course everything's looked at a lot closer in New York City.
Put him in St. Louis, man. Everybody loves their players in St. Louis. Well, most of their players in St. Louis, man. Put him in Cincinnati. Everybody loves their players in Cincinnati. That shit will fire him up. Excuse me. That stuff will fire him up.
Oh, please don't worry about it. Well, but by the way, just before, I know we got to move on, but Mike and I, a couple of podcasts ago, had a former umpire, professional league umpire, did AAA, AA.
It's
A
tough
lot of
job.
I did a lot of spring training. And remember we brought up Jeff, Jeff McNeil, and he said, not surprised.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so, I don't know. And, you and I, Tim, both have had press credentials. So we both know we don't talk out of school. You just, what happens in the clubhouse is totally different. But all he said was, not surprised.
Yep. Not surprised. And Tim will share, just quickly share, we still got about 10 minutes or left or so, but want to just share a quick thing, just speaking of former guests, just because one of the first guests we had on, his name was Doug Ruppel. He was a bullpen catcher for the Cleveland fill in the blank. And so at the time, he finally got his first major league game, first game where the next day was going to, if the end of the day happened and the strike was not resolved, then he would be on the roster making league minimum. He was playing for the Mets against that other team, and he gets up to the plate and he gets a double off the left field wall. He gets to second base and the crowd goes nuts. And he is from Cleveland. So the place goes nuts. So he's thinking, I did something like special here, like they're acknowledging that I'm from Cleveland. And so all of a sudden the second baseman comes up, taps him on the shoulder and says, hey, dummy, turn around. They're not cheering for you. Look at the scoreboard. Turn around, look at the scoreboard, and at the moment that he hit that double, it said the strike has been lifted. Play resumes tomorrow. Poor guy, his moment was ruined in that, but just couldn't have been a nicer guy. And he was sharing how his first catcher he had to catch in spring training was Randy Johnson. Like, hello, welcome. But just had to share that. Oh yes, pass. Next one.
And you know that he's just going to start messing with these guys. He's going to put them imagine 99 in the dirt your first time facing a major leaguer, and you got to face Randy Johnson. Oh my God. I'm laying on the ground in the fetal position. Please don't hit me. Please don't hit me.
Yeah. And I was going to mention too, just about.
Sorry.
In a weird turn of events, he won't be in the lineup today. Thank God he's okay. But did you guys see the Brandon Nimmo situation? What happened to him this morning in the hotel room?
Yeah. I saw that.
Could have been much, much worse. But thankfully it was tis but a scratch. But it's never happened to him before. And obviously we're playing the humidity. I mean, it's hotter in New York City than it is in Florida right now. So.
Yeah, he fainted in his hotel room and bumped his head.
Very scary stuff.
Yeah. And by the way, 8 years ago today, he hit his first major league home run.
And his last one was his 100th. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. Could you believe he's in the league 8 years already?
No. Yeah.
No.
I'm trying to, because he never really went back down, right? He was just kind of the bench guy. He would start, and then he was in right, and then he put him in center, and then he kind of took off.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm gonna be 100% honest. The thing that sold me on him from day one seems silly, but the way he goes to first base on a walk, I just love that. I'm in the league that I play in, and then in the church softball league. But that's a step right under AAA. But in the church softball league, I, as a catcher, anything obviously unless there's a runner at second, I will run at the speed of light to back up the first baseman on every play, and it kind of distracts the runners a little bit because they hear footsteps, like someone's coming out right behind them, but it's just me going to the right side to try to catch, that sort of thing. But
dude, hustle's a good thing, man.
Yeah, I like to be involved in as many plays as I can, but that really sold me on him from day one. So nothing but success, hopefully, in his future. And I was glad that we were able to sign him for that big contract. So definitely.
I want to ask you guys a question. Can you think of another New York Mets player who's taken such a step forward after signing a deal? Like, he was good. He was good enough to get that nice contract. We were all happy. He's taken such a leap forward after signing that deal.
Great question.
I can't think of many other players, even if you want to go over to like the Yankees, even if you want to go across the league. Who's really gotten better after the contract?
Yep. I would have to go to commercial break before I could answer that question because
Nashville tax illusion. No, sorry.
Yes. And speaking of which, I can't believe I went this far into the podcast not mentioning that today is the infamous Bobby Bonilla Day. And the fact that he makes more in 2024 than Brock Purdy, the starting Super Bowl quarterback for the 49ers, good on him, though, till 2035. Good on him for that. I just had to get that out there. Yeah.
We have to celebrate it, to be perfectly.
Yeah.
It was a win for Bobby Bonilla. I mean, that's the win of all wins for Bobby Bonilla. And actually, it was a win for the Mets.
Agreed.
They were able to do so much by shedding that contract, and it eventually actually led to David Wright. I want to say that Danny Abriano at SNY put the timeline together today, but I've heard it before. But what I guess shedding his money in 2000, what was it, 2005? No, it's before that. Anyway, shedding that money allowed them to do a lot of things, and again, eventually led to David Wright, and we know where David Wright's career went. But yeah, good for Bobby Bonilla. Fine for the Mets. What's $1.5 million to Steve Cohen, even to the Wilpons when they were getting, had to take out loans to ward off the Madoff thing. What is it? 1.1 million a year? That's not so.
Until he's I think the age of 73, I think is when it'll stop, which is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
So two things. One, I want to harken back to your question, Tim, and then answer yours, Mike. At least give my viewpoint on it. Tim, not a Met, but was a Met. Zach Wheeler.
I just knocked my phone off the table because I hit it. That's a gosh darn good answer.
Yes.
Because you get, that was a good, this is what I'm talking about. I don't keep throwing smoke your way, but it's true. That's a great learning question. I had to sit there and think. Zach Wheeler, he's better now.
He's taken another step that every Mets fan knew he was going to take.
100%.
Brody Van Wagenen, and he went public with it and said, "Yeah, he's not that good." Paraphrasing, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah,
those are the darkest times, my friends. Those are the darkest times.
Yeah, and he's a guy that they let him go under 2 pitches. I was looking, like you saw Eileen, or my wife Eileen, Tampa Bay Ray fan. She's been on the show before, but I was looking over the Rays' probable starters for this upcoming series against Kansas City, and every starting pitcher. Now, I don't know the exact number, but here we are, July 1st. So every pitcher is at least about 15, 16 starts by now, I would say. Every starting pitcher on Tampa Bay Rays is 3-2, 3-1, 2-3, 1-4. That's 15 starts in that they're getting taken out of the games as soon as they see the lineup the third time. And the manager is great. Like, I'm glad that he re-signed them in Tampa Bay, Kevin Cash. Yeah. But man, I miss when pitchers would go 7 innings more than ever.
Well, so do I.
They stick to their blueprint big time, don't they?
So what I want to say about Bobby Bonilla Day, first of all, brilliant. I think more players should do that. It's a wonderful retirement annuity, whatever you want to call it.
Guys, I don't know if you're on X. I didn't mean to cut you off, Darren. I'm sorry. If you're not on X, Mike Mayer, who's a big Mets personality, Mike Mayer, Mayer, he just put it up today. It's probably a 30 or 40 post or 30 or 40 post thread of all the deferred contracts in MLB. And this is going back to like Bruce Sutter. Bruce Sutter, excuse me, not Suter. He's a hockey player. Who just stopped getting paid just a couple of years ago by the Braves, by the way, Bruce Sutter.
Yeah. By the way, everybody mispronounces that name, so including myself. But second of all, Ohtani's contract is nothing but the Bonilla contract on steroids. They just backloaded everything.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful way of kind of getting around things.
It is. When you're making that much money as a salary, in Ohtani's case, in endorsements, you don't need that salary. Give it to me later. That's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
Give me that first year, though. I'll take that first year. But then
I can live off.
Especially all the
you're not eating top
sales and commercials. And things.
You're not eating top ramen. That's for sure.
I still enjoy it. I don't care how much money I make. Give me PBJs and ramens. That's fine.
I'm in.
Oh man. Gosh, and so as we kind of start closing up here, just going back, of course, anything you want to share on the 86 experience? We make the joke here around my household because we may not see another championship for quite a while. So I've got the 86 DVD that goes in the DVD player pretty often, the Game 6 game. But just thinking back to that night, of course, I know you were 3, I was 4, but like So watching it now, of course, and stuff, I still think Mookie beats out the throw to first base. But even if he didn't, what an outstanding game! But just realizing how there were 2 outs when that rally started in that game 6 just still blows my mind. What had to have happened for them to win that game, and then you just knew in Game 7 at that point what was going to happen. Just similar to when with Boston coming back 3-0 to New York Yankees, you knew Game 7 was going to be what it was by that point of them coming back. But just quick thoughts, starting with you, Darren, on the 86 Game 6, what you remember.
Well, first of all, persistence beats resistance. The whole I'm not making the last out, any of all that. I mean, we talk about that. I feel that big time. But here's the thing, and it's sort of a minor opinion. But, Bob Stanley takes a lot of flack for throwing that wild pitch. But you know what? I thought Rich Gedman was a lazy catcher. He just reaches over. He doesn't move his body. I mean, to me, that's a borderline pass ball more than a wild pitch. Because if you look at that, he just does this. How do you do that Game 7 last game? That's what I remember.
Yep.
I'm sure you have similar experiences to me. I lived the 86 series through VHS tapes.
Yeah.
And I guess the sick Mets fan I was as a little kid, and I've been a sports. I'm sure, again, we're the same age. I'm sure you spent all summer, every summer, watching Sports Center 5-6 times in a row and starting your day. So yeah, we were just sports nuts from a very young age. So I would always watch Game 7 because I wanted to see the celebration. I watched Game 6 once in a while, but it didn't really, the magic didn't hit until I was 8, 9, 10. Like, oh my God, they did what? I just always wanted to see them win the World Series. So I know Game 7 like the back of my hand. I've seen it a million times. Game 6 is, and it began in my mind as magic. Like when it clicked, wait, what just happened? Right. Again, it takes a while to really grasp that side of things. Even as a little kid, they could have told you, look what just happened. I don't want to jump too far off topic. You guys remember when Matt Barr hit the game-winning field goal in the 1990 NFC Championship for the Giants?
San Francisco, yes.
My uncle shook me so hard. I was 7. My uncle shook me so hard that I vomited. So, of course, I just thought, okay, cool, the Giants won. I didn't really appreciate it until you read back on it or watch the clips a few years later where you could really soak it in, and then it's like magic. And that's what Game 6 is. Game 6 is just magic. It doesn't happen. You could flip a coin 100 times or whatever, write a program 100 times, and that projection doesn't happen. It's magic. And that'll bring us back to Shea in our little spiel.
Tim, I know we all have to stop, and Mike, I want to hear yours.
Sorry,
guys. No, this is great. This is what guys, ladies, which is what we do. People do when we get together and we talk. I didn't get a chance to talk about the Nick run. That was a great run.
Great run, and now they're set up for even more.
Villanova 4, baby.
They got to get the other one back.
Yes,
with the other guy. Shoot, I forgot his name now.
Yeah, but we weren't expecting. Listen. This was one of those when the Mets lost the World Series in 2015. I was devastated because they should have rolled in that Royal team. With the Knicks losing, I just felt like what, they went as far as they could with the injuries. God bless. They did a great job.
Yeah, and you mentioned.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
I was just saying you mentioned 2015. Just for a moment, just how many people across America were yelling, Beltran, swing the bat,
No, that's 2006.
That's 6. Okay.
Oh, that was Game 7.
That's true. Yeah.
That was I got over that oddly quickly. I get it. Those are nasty pitches, man. Those are disgusting. He had to have tried to foul off one. I get that now. He wasn't doing anything with those, man. He was doing nothing with those.
He was filthy. He threw filth.
Yeah. Yep. And how about
Adam Wainwright before we knew who Adam Wainwright really was?
That's right.
And he was just that. Those were the nastiest curveballs I've ever seen.
Yes.
Those are Kershaw's. Those are freaking Koufaxes, man. Those things He wanted that World Series so bad, and the Mets would have just ran the Tigers in the World Series. Oh,
Yep.
Yeah.
there's my
Yeah.
trauma. Thanks, Mike. There it is right there.
I agree.
Armando Benitez. That's all we got to say here on the show. The worst. I feel like if he had a bobblehead, it wouldn't go up and down. It would just him looking over his shoulder, watching the balls go over his head. But the last thing.
That's great.
Oh gosh, man. So the end of the season, we're sitting. Oh, and that's what I was going to mention. The end of the season, where I know we have the extra wild cards now. So Tim, I'll start with you. Do you think they can they be there in the end, at least against Philadelphia, or do you feel it's going to be if I ask you right now, I'm put you on the spot, is it Atlanta, Philadelphia, or can the Mets get that far? With Senga coming back in a shell of himself. Yeah.
It's baseball. Anything can happen. If the Mets make the right additions at the trade deadline, and even if they do a little dip and they get hot at the right time late in the year, gosh, I hope I don't. Yeah, they can make it. They can make it to at least I don't want to say the NLCS, but they can make it into the actual playoffs.
Yeah.
From there, anything can happen. And get out of the wild card and make it into actual series, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. And imagine right now if we had the probable AL 2024 starting game pitcher Seth Lugo. I mean, oof, he is so good this year. It's amazing.
He wanted to leave New York so bad. They could have given him $120 million. He would have said he would have left. He wanted to. They kind of jerked him around for too long. He just wanted to be gone.
Yeah.
Look at how well he's doing. And they let him be a starter, and he went to San Diego to let him be a starter, and now he's just crushing it.
Yeah, and a lot of people. I mean, unfortunately, that happens. A lot of guys leave New York and do really well elsewhere. So
look at Matz, though. Matz has still been a mediocre guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Matz for sure as well. Yep. So Darren, any final thoughts on this team before we wrap things up?
No, I think we covered it pretty well. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they do make the wild card.
Yep. And I hear a lot of like, oh, there's so many wild cards. It's, but what do you like? I don't want to go on a rant here at the last 2 minutes, but I think, it's good that we're into July and 13 teams are in competition. Now, if 8 of those teams were 6 games below 500, I might be singing a different tune, but like, isn't it a good thing like that there's so many teams that are in the hunt that are playing good ball? It's just a log jam. I'm not talking about, I forget what year it was where it was like Seattle Seahawks, I think were like 7-9 or something like that, made the 6-10, made the playoff division 3rd, 4th seed. I don't want that, but I think it's a good thing. With all the bad changes and whatnot, I'm a huge proponent for that because there's meaningful baseball in September, and that's what it should be like. So, but
keep pace and have some fun, and hope that you're able to make some magic in the end.
Yes, and for the love of God, when the Mets make the playoffs, do not give us the Tuesday afternoon game. We don't want it. Give us that evening game, please. But thank you, Tim. Thank you, Darren. Hopefully this is part 1 of many more, because we could talk Mets sunrise till sundown. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much again. Please check out all of Tim's socials, Simply Amazing especially. And until next time, we'll see you around the ballpark.